On today's video, we're going to repair the damage we did to the S13 Silvia at round 1 of the Drifting SA State Series. As you would have seen in the earlier vid, had a big crash in the wall. If you haven't seen, I'll chuck a clip of it in here. Too close. Basically what that did is that destroyed pretty much everything in the front end. So basically snapped a coil over, bent a control arm in about 90 degrees, bent a tie rod about the same, bent the cast rod, but the cast rod was reusable, so that's all still back in the car. I've got some spare control arm, or a spare control arm in the car, a spare coil over, so basically got to get to work at getting everything back to normal. So thanks to Silvia Spares, we got a pair of brand new control arms here, which we're going to have to modify. Extend them out a bit, take these lock stops off and probably put some other lock stops on, adjustable ones. So these bad boys are obviously brand new. They're not OEM, they are a different brand I think, but better than a 30-year-old second-hand one. I think they were about 90 bucks each, so super cheap. You probably end up paying that for your ball joint and your bush or whatever that you've got to replace in your old flogged out ones. So definitely a good idea to get those. We've got a carton of Fiddly Bits Finest, so we can spray them up afterwards. I've got some welding rods for the TIG welder. Normally when I extend control arms, which I've done a heap for myself because I keep crashing, and a heap for different friends and stuff as well. Normally I MIG weld them, and they've always been super strong. They've never broken at the bit where I've actually extended. They've always bent or broken in the inner part where I've sort of designed them to be. But this time I'm going to TIG weld them, so a little bit worried. Hoping the TIG weld's as strong as my MIG welding, but it's a good way to put it to the test and get it done. Also, we've got our Shockworks coilovers back because I snapped one of the tops on them, so they've helped us out and fix these back up. I've also added some helper springs in the top here as well because we were running it a bit low. This spring wasn't captive, so that's helping us keep the spring captive at super low height. So, well, my car's not super low, but it's still low enough to not have a captive spring. So anyway, before I keep rambling on, going to get to extending these control arms first, because that's going to be the most time consuming job, and then once we've got those extended we can look at chucking them in the car and putting everything else in the car. So I think I've actually done this on the channel before, but might as well briefly go over it. I think last time I did it to some second-hand ones, but these are new at least. So first thing you want to do is get rid of the stock lock stop. Don't need that where we're going. And then you want to obviously grind them down. Don't do what I did and cut too far through, but luckily we can fix that. We can just weld that up. It's only just gone through at the end. So you want to get that all nice and smooth, and then you want to cut out some pieces to extend it with. This is just 65 by 35, I believe. It's been a hot minute since I've done it. Yeah, 65 by 35 RHS, and these ones I've just done 30mm, so S13 control arms 30mm extended. If you've got S14 or S15, you've got to remember they're already about 10mm bigger than S13, so you only want to do them about 20-25mm. And then you obviously want to cut it after the caster arm bit here. If you cut it on here, you're going to have some funky caster issues there, so always after here. Normally the sweet spot is about 25mm here from the caster arm bolt. So if you measure from there to there, about 25mm, and yeah, should be sweet to go. one of the things I have picked up on a lot of the time over the years is people don't actually understand why you are extending your control arms. A lot of people think it's just to get more camber, and that is one of the reasons, but the main reason is clearance. So if you're looking to get more lock out of your drift car, a lot of people think a lot of different things will give you more lock, and some of them do, like rack spacers, different knuckles, things like that. But the main thing that gives you lock is clearance. So you can get a hell of a lot of lock out of just a stock knuckle as long as you've got a huge amount of clearance. So basically the main reason we're extending these is to get more clearance. Yes, it gives you a little bit more camber, but I normally run my camber tops all the way out to try and get minimal amount of camber, because too much camber can be bad for first initiating, because obviously if you've got 5-6 degrees of camber or upwards, you're only going to have half the tyre on the ground when you're trying to flick it in. So sometimes a little bit less camber is better. More camber obviously helps with a bit more flatter contact patch on the ground when you're on lock. So yeah, basically just depends what kind of feel you want the car to have. But again, I'm going to stop going on about it and start getting into it. Cut these up and get them ready to weld up. I think Kane's bringing the S13 in now, chuck it on the 4-poster, get it up, start fixing some broken bits. Remember my first time driving a manual? Oh, that was got the screwdriver. I remember my first time driving a manual.
This thing flexes so much, all you can hear is the perspex in the back flexing. Oh, and door doesn't open.
You gotta open it from the outside.
Oh man.
I was thinking of quickly chucking it on the alignment machine and seeing what it was at in the last time before we take everything apart.
See how the old eye alignment was.
The only thing I've changed since the event was the coilover in this side, because I had to take the other coilover out to send them off. Just chucked it on the alignment machine to see where it's at. This side, obviously I've replaced the coilover since the actual day, so that's got a hectic amount of camber. I didn't end up adjusting that or anything because we're going to change it back to the Shockworks, and this is what we were at. A lot of toe out, which could be caused a little bit from this camber being a bit excessive. Caster actually wasn't too bad. This one went forward a little bit. The rear, not too bad either. Surprisingly, for a big hit, apart from the camber, which is from the coilover that I swapped over, it's actually not too bad. That was the eye alignment. So basically the first lap I went out, probably had 40-50 mil toe out, and then I brought it back in, and it would have been, yeah, probably about 20 odd mil toe out. So the eye alignment was pretty good. Anyway, we're gonna start whipping into this and get the wheels off, get the coilovers off, get the new ones in. While he's doing that, I'm gonna start welding up these control arms because it's super hot, so I want to try and get it done pretty soon. I've got these cleaned up now, got them cut, cleaned up, ready to go. Gonna tack them all together and then start welding them out. I've got one all welded up. Obviously, yeah, first time I've done it with the TIG, so it's a little bit challenging. It's a lot easier to get it sort of flowing a bit nicer because you can take a bit more time with it, but I need to get one of those things you can lean on the piece of material you're welding on, because all I've got is gloves and it gets super hot, so that's why it's a bit sort of all over the place. But yeah, welded that in, and then I just put a brace underneath, under here. Got to make sure there's room to bolt the caster rod in still. So normally I have to do that 70 mil and 100 mil on the angle there, and then brace all that up there, I normally put it this way a little bit, so you've got more clearance here if you want to get a bit more lock, and then put the flat bar closer to this side, so it's pretty well flush there, and you've got a bit of a gap there. That's basically to brace up what you've welded, and then I leave this side unbraced so that it can bend there if it needs to, rather than bending something further down the line if your control arm's super strong. So I'm going to flick some fiddly bits on this and get it in the car, and then we might look at a bit later on adding a lock stop in, but for now we're just going to see how it goes like this. All welded up, all painted up, fiddly bitsed up, and ready to go. I painted it and chucked it on the cardboard box, and the paint come off a little bit, so I'll spray over that when it's in the car, but the paint's only to stop it from rusting. It's not a show car, and these are probably going to bend the next time I take it out, so that's good enough for me. Alright, got it all back together now. Haven't got it aligned yet, just sort of roughly put it where it needs to be. Gonna lower it down and see where the height is with these new helper springs. And she's slammed. That's a little bit low, might need to raise that up a bit. Definitely a bit low. Alright, just raised it about 15 mil, so I'm going to try again. Yeah, it's still super low, but we're just off the blocks now, so that's enough to get off the hoist for today. I'm going to come back another day and finish it all off. It's way too hot, it's getting late and getting hungry, so gonna finish it off now. Basically got to change the height, get it a little bit higher because it's a bit too low at the moment. Either look at putting some lock stops in or what the situation is there. Get it all lined up, and then I've got this diff here which I bought, which is a 4:9 ratio. So I want to chuck that in, see if it'll spruce up the 20 a little bit, give it a bit more acceleration, a little bit less laggier, so I'm going to chuck that in, see how that goes, but we'll come back another day. Alright, back again with the S13, got some motivation tonight to hopefully try and get everything finished on it so we can get ready for round 2 at the State Series. Some of the jobs we're going to do today is the tie rod end and tie rod is a little bit too long on one side now because the control arms that I made were a little bit shorter than the previous ones, so I've got to cut them down, get it back on the alignment machine, get it aligned. The rest of the car is pretty close to aligned now, so that shouldn't take too long. I've got a rear bar here, or what resembles part of a rear bar. I've got to cable tie that together, get that back on the car, go over all the panels that are on the car because they're all breaking. I think this side's actually not too bad, but the other side, the rear guard's about to fall off, so we're going to cable tie that up in a sec. From hitting the wall, this is all fallen off, so let's chuck some tech screws through that, get that back together. But the most exciting bit I've got is this new 4.9 diff that I'm looking forward to putting in. So purchased this a month or two ago. Basically I've just swapped the rear cover over on it. Can't get the fuel plug open, so I've got to fill it up through the drain plug, and I think it's about 1.5 litres, so I'm going to measure that out in a sec and then try and get the exact amount in, and if I overfill it a little bit, hopefully it just comes out the breather. And yeah, so basically got this diff because the RB20 is super laggy. So this should hopefully spruce it up a bit, bring it on boost a little bit quicker, and hopefully start using a bit of 4th gear rather than 3rd gear, because that's the gear I always break. So yeah, I'm going to show you a little trick on how to check the ratio without taking the rear hat off. So the normal way you would check what ratio of diff is take the rear hat off, and on the crown wheel it's actually got 2 numbers on it. So for this one being a 4:9 ratio, it's got 49 and 10. 10 is basically the teeth that is on the pinion, and then 49 is the amount of teeth that is on the crown wheel, and that gives you your ratio. But if you've just sealed it up or bought one that you don't want to open and reseal, you can do this little trick. So you grab a white marker type blinger, and then this one's sealed shut. Probably going to be dry and not work, so yep, give her a shake so she's working. Alright, so you put a mark here through there like that, and then you do the same on the half shaft bit, so like that. That's a bit oily, so that's hard to do. And then what you do is you turn this bad boy here, doesn't matter which way you go because it's going to be the same amount of turns either way, and you count how many times it goes through until this one matches up again. So we go through here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we keep going around until there. We can see that one's matching up now, and that one's nearly around 5 times. So if you picture this like this, and that's where our mark is there. So that's 0, and then you got 1 all the way through until 9, and then that would be starting again. So that one there is 9, so that's 4:9 ratio. Very crude way of measuring it, but saves resealing the hat if you want, or if you want to do it in the car, you can do it in the car as well if you jack it up or whatever. So yeah, handy little trick to have. Got the diff all filled up. Just used some of this gear oil we had here because I couldn't be bothered going and buy some. 80/90, I think normally you're meant to use 75/90. I'm hoping that should be alright. It's welded, so it doesn't have an LSD or anything to work, so really all the oil's doing is lubricating the crown and pinion and keeping it cool. I don't know what it really does, but hopefully that's alright. But taking the diff out now, this super bus exhaust is right in the way, so getting that out of the way. And then I was just looking up here, and there's some rubber jammed in between the diff and the subframe. So sussing out the control arm. What's wrong with it?
She's not straight.
Yeah, but what part?
So I noticed that's like squashed down and a bit how you going.
What about up here? What's going on up here?
Wow.
I don't know why, but the whole control arm's like moved in the bushes all the way forward. But I don't know why. Oh well.
There you go. It's not informational or anything, but
This one's moved as well a little bit.
you know it's possible.
Exhaust is out, diff nearly out. Getting there. Getting there. Got the diff out, old diff out, new diff ready to go in. Lucky I noticed, but this diff came with some fancy looking bushes. I don't know what they are, poly bushes or something. But it's missing the bit on the top. So lucky I noticed that. So I've stolen the top bit off of this one. It's just a standard bush, and it kind of just tightly pushes on there. So lucky I noticed that now, because that could have been a bit dodgy. Probably been floating around. Probably would have come undone. I don't know. But anyway, got that ready to put in. So that's the next job. Chuck that bad boy back in. And yeah, that's not very exciting. So just get into actually doing it. Diff is in. 4.9 diff in. Exhaust back on. We've converted it to a 3-bolt rear hat. This one is stuffed, and I can't be bothered changing it. 3 bolts will be enough. In case you didn't know the differences between the diffs in R200s, Silvias and Skylines and that, S13 and R32 has a 4-bolt rear hat, whereas 33, 34, S14, S15 have 2-bolt rear hat, and then the newer ones have a like your V35 and stuff, have a 1-bolt rear hat. Differences are 5 and 6-bolt shafts. GDR is 6x1, whereas S13 and that are 3x2. So 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here, 2 bolts up the top. And the front, they have different ones. I think mostly S13 and 32 just have a normal hole and it's pretty much solid mounted. Whereas the newer ones, and maybe some of the S13 ones, I'm not sure, but most of the time I see them, they're in the solid hole ones are in S13s and that. 33s, S14s and all the newer ones and that have these bushes like that. So I'm pretty sure the bolts are different, so you got to make sure you get the bushes and bolts if you've got one that you're buying that has it like that, because I've been caught out with that before. Anyway, that's all done. Gonna go on to the front, gonna jack this bad boy up and get to cutting down the tie rod, because basically this is where we're at. I don't know if you can see it on the camera there, but we've run out of thread there to give it any extra toe out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down this. I only need probably 10 mil or so. I'm going to cut down the tie rod end a bit, so we've got a little bit more room there to go in, but then the tie rod's probably going to be too far in here, so I'm going to cut that down. I'll probably cut both down 5 or 10 mil, and then we'll have enough to go a little bit further in, but still plenty in there to hold on to. Whereas the other side, it's pretty tight, but still got a couple of threads left, and I think we're at about 10 mil toe out on that side or so, so we've got enough to go in or out, so we should hopefully get away with just doing the one side.
Went up in the C channel.
If it was in the C channel, we'd be able to see it. I can hear it. Oh. That was a big burfer. I think that's the one I saw the other day, and I thought it was a fucking cat. Turns out it's a rat.
You're a rat.
Alright, now I'm gonna cut this after it scared the shit out of me.
No safety glasses, just OEMs?
Yeah, I got fucking original equipment manufactured glasses.
The only thing I noticed that whole time is the gas bottle right there.
That's not flammable gas bottle.
It's just gassable gas bottle.
I don't think it's flammable anyway. You weld with it, so I don't think it's flammable. Alright. This is going to be the hard bit because I didn't want to take it off the car. Oh, that was super weird. Alright. OEM's failed a little bit. A little OEM fail. Oh.
Sucked in.
We got smoking. What's smoking?
What's cooking? Good
I
looking?
think it's just all the oil that's on it. Does that look super boss on that side?
Yes. Very. There's very boss. And very bright light underneath.
I have to go this side to clean it up.
No, you're very short.
Oh yeah, I can't reach. I can't see. Oh, that's the sun a little bit.
It's not that hard, just grow a bit.
Oh yeah. Oh, why is it so boss still?
on the stupidest angle.
Got it cut down. Got plenty of thread left there. We've got it all in line now, so ready to go. Just got to check clearance with these new lower control arms. So jack the front up, get it on full lock, see where we're at, see if we need to make some lock stops for it, or if we need to clearance them a little bit. So basically, you only want to do this after you've got it aligned, because if your alignment's all out, you're going to have obviously different clearance to if you got it aligned. So this side, our limiting factor is basically the tie rod end hitting on the control arm there, on the little lip bit there, and then on this side we're pretty close to there, so under load that'll probably just hit, but we might just get away with that. Check it the other way. That's super hard. Oh, making some weird noises. Alright, so that's same thing. Tie rod end hitting on that lip there. And this side is, this side's got a little bit more clearance than the other side, so I reckon we're going to run it like that, because I can't be bothered putting lock stops in it. So get that back. This time for the alignment, running a little bit less camber than we were before. We're at about 4 degrees negative. Casters 7.5, toe only 15mm out total, which is a little bit less than I normally run. The biggest change I've done for this layout, it's probably going to be a bit easier if I put the hoist down. Alright, so the biggest change that I've actually made is the KPI adjustment. Basically that is camber done by the top bolt on your coilover. So it's basically changing the angle of the knuckle to your coilover, and what that does is it gives you a different amount of camber when your wheel's on full lock. So if you picture that there, and if you brought that in, it would give you less rollover. So that's what we've done, whereas if you brought that all the way out on the knuckle there, it would bring it that way more, and you'd have more positive camber. Actually no, I lie. So we brought it all the way out to give it more positive camber, so it's got more wheel slip. Whereas normally you have it in, and then this will be flatter being in that way. So obviously it changes your static camber when it's normally like that, because you're going in and out, but more so that will affect the wheel rollover when it's like that. Whereas if you added camber at the top there, all that's going to do is bring that in and out there. It's not going to affect your wheel lean as much. Super hard to explain without moving it around and showing you. That was a very, very bad example of explaining it. Long story short, I've made that out, so we've got more wheel lean, so we've got more positive camber on lock because we have a fast entry coming up, and I want a little bit of slide in the front rather than having it in and having a more contact patch on the ground. So hopefully you understood some of that garbage that I just talked. Alright, got it all back together, about to go for a blocky on my mate's private road and check out the 4.9 diff, see how it goes. See if we get a bit more acceleration on it. Oh, we're getting a pit stop happening, tension in the wheels up. So yeah, I think he's just going to film it from outside the car, and then I'll let you know how it goes. Well, that was a pretty cool test drive. I don't know if it was just because the tyres were super bald and it just lit up the tyres or not, but it seemed to take off really quick, so I'm actually pretty excited now to test it out on the track. Yeah, feels like it. Normally when I take off, it's sort of, if you don't try and slip the clutch or spin the wheels, it just goes and then goes. But that was sort of just like and then it went. So very bad explanation again. But yeah. Anyway, I'm excited for that. A few little things I've got to do to it still, like change the oil and filter, which I might not even do, but I should probably do it. And then what else was there? I think that was about it. So it's pretty well ready anyway for the next round, and we've got a couple of weeks left before then, so hopefully we can get some work done on this thing, because it's been sitting up here for a good 6 months now and I haven't really done anything to it. So yeah, we need to get some work done on that, because I'd much rather drive this thing because it's going to be a lot faster. Anyway, enough jibber jabber. Bye.